Hello and welcome on this rainy morning in the studio at Domaniewska. Today we'll be talking about artificial intelligence in cloud, Poland on path from challenger to leader. Are we on the way to become the next Europe's digital valley? We'll talk about that today with our guests, Mr. Shukri Dabaghi, Vice President, SAS Institute Europe, Middle East and Africa, Mr. Michał Pieprzny, the country leader at SAS Poland, Mr. Paweł Jakubik, Digital Transformation Lead at Microsoft, and Mr. Tomasz Wyszyński, Vice President, Marketing, Analytics and AI at Schneider Electric. Welcome, gentlemen. Gentlemen, with the investment of Microsoft and Google in Poland, Poland has become an important player in the field of AI. Well, in order for us to become truly a leader, we need to engage in a dialogue and talk about all the business and legal ramifications of the process. Is it possible? Can Poland really become Europe's digital valley? Let's start with a brief diagnosis of the situation, because the development of artificial intelligence has really sped up with the development of cloud. Mr. Dabaghi, can you tell us a little bit more about the character of? Can we let us fully grasp the concept of the marriage between cloud and AI? How does it work together? How has it sped up the process of AI development?
Well, obviously the accelerated adoption of AI comes with the affluence of a country in general. So as the country starts to develop and start to become more affluent, and its trends become far more microscopic in a sense that it's not just generic trends across the market, but they become a little bit more specific. The affluence of a market creates the necessity with the businesses of that market to become a little bit more competitive with each other so that they can capture these specific micro trends as they go on. And that has definitely happened in Poland, and we could see it right now as this country continues to develop and continues to evolve. The requirements of competition is causing the particular trends to become a little bit more dramatic, and the market is supposed to interact with that. The collection of data, obviously, is becoming ever more enormous as the market as well starts to collect more of its constituents from data and its trends and how things are moving. And that's putting a lot of pressure on the organizations to become more competitive. AI comes in that sense in enabling their ability to capture these trends, to understand them, to react to them. Now, it's not that it wasn't there before. It's always been there. Analytics has always been a big part of the decision-making of the organizations. But with the requirements of becoming ever quicker and ever more subtle in changing the direction of organization and the requirements and the demands of the market, cloud has helped a lot in a sense that the collection of the data, the efficiency of how we can collect it, the efficiency of how much we can crunch it, the enablement of the merger of cloud and AI has become a natural fit, where we're able to use that capacity and that capability of the cloud providers, not only just in collection, but in giving us that competency to crunch that data ever more quickly, real time, and being able to respond quicker to the market. And that small edge is what everybody's looking for. So it was a natural progression, I suppose, with the market pushing us to go that way, and technology is following suit very quickly.
Mr. Pieprzny, what's the situation like in Poland at the moment? Are Polish businesses tech-savvy enough? Are they fully participating in this development? Are they fully... do they know how to use the technology?
I must say that, in my opinion, the situation is really improving and developing, and it also very strongly depends on the industry and on its readiness to use data, big sets of data for supporting the business decisioning. So we know that industries which are not dealing with physical products like telco or banking or insurance tend to be a little bit more advanced in terms of how they use the data, how they employ it, how they model their business processes, and how they integrate all of this in order to deliver customer experience, their products, recommendations, and how they do marketing as well. Then we also have industries where physical flow of products is much more important, and it's like more and more and organizing and digitizing the operations is of a kind of has a little bit different nature. Yeah? In these businesses, you need to remember that there are many aspects and factors that can influence it. Here, AI and analytics can help a lot. Still, in these industries, there's relatively short tradition of using data in that sense, and trusting that some AI or algorithm can recommend what business should do. Therefore, in these industries, what we can observe is that there's really like lots of tests and lots of trial and error approaches. And I must say that I'm really looking forward how this whole situation develops, as we see that it's really, the trend is increasing. And I think that from this more traditional industries, we can, in coming months and years, we will see really huge development and advancement.
Mr. Wyszyński, is AI for everybody, for every kind of business? Can you find applications for everything? We know it's great for medicine, it's great for marketing, definitely, but do all companies need AI, or can AI improve any company?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, my personal view is that AI is probably one of the biggest revolutions in business and society we're gonna go through, not of the last 10 or 20 years, but of the last few hundred years at least, okay? And it's generating heated debate with famous people, Stephen Hawking saying that's gonna be the biggest thing we ever invented, Elon Musk taking a little bit different, cautious stance, saying, well, you know, let's be careful with AI. But if you look at the spectrum of where AI is used today, it's literally everywhere, because we have to understand that the nature of AI revolution is not about technology, okay? AI is about changing the way we do things, changing the way we take decisions. That means that the biggest challenge we face is changing habits we have established over the last 20, 30 years in the business, okay? It's about changing the culture of enterprises, of societies. And so if you look at mid-size, small size, large size environments, AI is just about everywhere. Specifically for Europe and for Poland, if you look at statistics at what is the percentage of small and mid-sized enterprises using big data and AI technologies, in leading countries, the percentage is already at the level of 40%. Of course, as Michał said, there are some sectors leading the way where decision-making without data is just not anymore possible. Moreover, we are arriving at the stage that we have to trust the machines to make the decisions for us, okay? Because it's not only about the amount of data needed to take the decision, but it's also about the speed and the place and the time context, okay? So long story short, yes, it's for everybody, and any type of company, regardless of business industry or size, can benefit from it.
I've heard an opinion that ignoring AI today is like ignoring the internet in 1998. So that you really need to acknowledge it and learn how to use it if you want to progress in business. Mr. Jakubik, tell us about the progress that Poland's made since the investment of Google and Microsoft. Can we truly become this digital valley, or is it just wishful thinking?
In my opinion, we have I would say, great potential, and we have great chance. But the key point is sitting in the execution of the AI deployment, AI project, AI proof of concept on the market. Our decision of big technology vendor from Google and Microsoft to choose Poland as a destination and the place where we are investing such a big money to build a digital infrastructure for the country, it looks that it was before this, it was a lot of analysis. And we really, I was the head of the negotiation team on behalf of Microsoft Poland, and our business case was based on the how big is the market potential for the cloud and for the cloud services, where the biggest portion in this business case was exactly AI in these cloud services, because we strongly believe that this is the future of technology. And we discovered that that is a huge part of the Polish market locked last 2 decades from the regulatory perspective, from the some, I would say, industry regulation, from the cybersecurity, strong regulations. Michał mentioned the FSI, banking, insurance as one of the leading sector. This is the example where KNF, as a Polish financial authority, even 2 years ago was based on the regulations where the source of these regulations was from the mid-90s, from the outsourcing regulations. That means that cloud was not allowed at all. And finally, with the group of people, with the group of institutions like PKO Bank Polski, like Polski Fundusz Rozwoju, like some entrepreneurs, and of course Microsoft, Google, and our partners, Accenture, Big Four, but also SAS Institute, example. We convince also the regulators to adopt the regulations, because having 1 billion investment from Microsoft, we never took decision to invest if it will be still this block for the next 10 years. Yeah, so we discussed deeply before, and it was really the good climate with the Polish decision makers, or also partially from government. I want to say what is not typical, you know, that some smart guys in the Ministry of the Digitization, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Infrastructure, they supported us with this business case. What was not easy. I remember 2 years ago, Poland was on the 15th position in the Microsoft ranking where we will build data center. And we moved Poland to the 2nd position 2 years ago based on this business case and strong justification. And one of this justification was 700,000 Polish programmers available, very well skilled. You know, we have several really strong universities with the computer science. And it was the proof and the argument that we convinced our management team. I remember the example where I was presenting Poland as a addressable market on the data center, and one of these big guys from the cloud management team, he asked me, what about other countries around Poland? Not only, but also the Eastern Europe, Czech, Slovakia, Hungary, Baltics, yeah? And I reply, we have something like this 3 seas region. I said 3 seas, Baltic, Adriatic, Black Sea, 125 million people. And some of Americans, they said, we never heard about 3 seas. And they checked in Wikipedia immediately. And one of them there is this region. And it was the moment where it was the trigger where they moved that it's not only Poland on the AI, but several other countries. Okay. So big American investors can invest money to be sure that investment will be secured. Sometimes, you know, this kind of situation that is a momentum of the decision.
So they saw us as a wider region, not just a single country.
Exactly.
Mr. Dabaghi, I'm sure Poland. Well, we've seen the progress in our position to become a leader in AI, but I'm sure Poland is not the only country debating on how to become a leader. What needs to happen in order for Poland to become truly a leader in this respect, legally? in a way we do business or politically as well. How does it work in other countries? How do other countries kind of work towards that aim?
Well, there needs to be there needs to be a rounding up of forces, as they say. There's the market force, there is the people, there's the trend, and then there's the technology. The market in itself is in high demand. Poland is one of the largest markets, let's say, in Central Europe for sure. And it's the affluence of the market, which I was talking about before, is creating a disposable income that it's making the necessity of the driving force of this investments become financially viable.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, the market as well in Poland has always been known to have high credible technical skills within its people and mathematical skills as well, engineers and so on. Now, these skills have been here for a long time. It's not like they're a product of yesterday, but they were, let's say, an immigrant skill set, where they used to go to the UK or to other parts of Europe, and they were supporting, let's say, the drive over there. Mm-hmm. The affluence of the market, the ability to compensate these people at an ever higher financial grade has, let's say, attracted a big portion of them to stay in. And that's a good driving force as well. So affluence of the market is helping. The availability of skills in there. Obviously, the response, the positive response of the regulators and of the government in enabling the regulations around it and how we can, let's say, protect all of these investments by the big organizations and support as well the requirement of our consumers for privacy. So all of these things, from the GDPR all the way to the regulations, help in making all of these investments secure for organizations too, like Microsoft and Google, to invest in that particular sector, and even us as SAS to as well put a big part of our investment in this country as a centerfold of the Central European push to create and to support our customers in understanding how they can automate their decision-making skills through AI and how to use the cloud capability within it. So all of these are just all, let's say, forces coming together at the right point and pushing that particular adoption forward. The skills are there, the market is there, the investments are there, and the regulation and the government support is there, and basically it pulls all in the right direction at the right time, and it makes such decisions and such momentum quite possible in this period.
Mr. Pieprzny, how do you work with businesses in Poland to help kind of progress with the AI use for the companies? How do you advertise it? How do you market it? How do you help the companies?
It's much more complex than it might appear. In fact, this is really like a multi-layer discussion, because just as Shukri, Paweł, or Tomek just mentioned, for sure in Poland there is huge amount of human capital, skills, attitude, and also like readiness to do lots of stuff. Still, we need to remember that the market itself doesn't have such a capacity or size to basically accommodate or create demand sufficient enough to develop and to provide business cases for easy and like large scaling of certain solutions. One of very important aspects is that as we are attracting lots of investments like the one of Microsoft in cloud in Poland, we also need to remember where decisions are taken. So still, I would differentiate that there are different discussions with businesses that have strong decision-making in terms of their management boards, shareholder structure, embedded here in Poland or in the region. Yeah? Because usually innovation and testing requires courage. Courage, risk-taking, and readiness to expect that results doesn't need to come already at the first trial. They may come at like a second, third, or even 50th attempt.
It's trial and error process.
Exactly. So like in modeling in AI, in fact, it's not like some people, because there is also a certain like an concept that is also created by movies around AI. So this is like, we tend to personalize AI. In fact, this is just a bunch of models right now, yeah? And these models are, or algorithms, that are really designed to do very specific things in much faster, much more efficiently than human being. Still, the breadth of the things that one model can do is very limited. So still, when we develop that, it's like still like 80% of models, they don't even go into operational business. They are just theoretical attempts to model, to grasp the complexity of our world. Therefore, courage and understanding of this process is really crucial, and it's easier to have such discussions with decision makers, with senior leaders who are located here, and they are empowered by their shareholders to take such decisions. In businesses that are still significant and large in Poland, but decision making is rather done in France, in Germany, in UK or US, you need to work on both layers. Yeah? So this is why global companies like ours can be really supportive also in the Polish market, because we have this capacity to talk in both places, at headquarters and in Poland. Because in Poland, this is where you can test lots of stuff, have skills, employ right teams and deploy them for the benefit of global markets. But finally, the decision-making and the, let's say, certain trust that we can entrust the Polish team to do that for us needs to come from there.
Okay.
Yeah? So these are certain complexities that many business decision makers face every day, and these are the challenges that we help them tackle. At the end of the day, it always cuts down to business value. So like just like 2 or 3 days ago, I went to one of the conferences, and there was a question regarding how we can innovate through technology, and there was like a question, a poll asked to all the participants of the meeting, who in your opinion today is taking decisions about investments in innovation in technology or in AI in your businesses? And there were like votes from the audience, and basically the winner was business. No longer like CIO or a CFO or CEO. So the decisions become much more, we're talking about the democratization, yeah? And business owners, line managers, they start understanding how they can benefit and how their business results can benefit from AI, from analytics, yeah? And then they basically ask, and they create demand. So it's really not like today. It's really much more plural and broader scope and number of discussions you need to have. So it's not like a one common theme that we go this way. It's given from the top. Yeah. So so in fact, it's returning to your question. It's really multi-layer layer. And long story short, we focus on value and understanding how all AI and analytics can improve business results.
Okay. Mr. Wyszyński, do you see that courage? You talk to decision makers here in Poland and probably abroad as well. Do you see this courage in Poland? How do you work towards that courage to become bigger? How do you convince your customers that AI is not some sci-fi invention from the movies, but something that can help them in their day-to-day business?
You know, I'm very blessed and lucky because the local commercial Schneider Electric organization is very open to innovation with great leadership, very, very open to taking risk and innovate and learn and fail fast, fail small, fail cheap, right? But I think if we look at this Polish ambition in perspective, I love to compare this to our football. You know, we have best player, one of the best players in the world. We have over 600,000 people registered as players. We have to be Europe top 5, right? And we are not.
No teamwork.
And does it mean we should give up on the ambition? Well, I don't think so. But we have to realize that there are some things which are fundamentally broken in the way we work on this, okay? Because on the human capital, I agree to a large extent. You know, in my role, I have been able to meet and visit most, if not all, key AI hubs in the world, work with most innovative startups, most powerful AI companies, etc. And seeing all this, there is nothing we should be ashamed for here, okay? But at the same time, if we look at the rankings, which try to give us a little bit of objectivity, where are we? Well, we are not even classified in Stanford AI ranking. In Totua, which is like a so-called slow news agency, they are publishing very good ranking on AI. We are ranked number 29. Okay. Now, being what you described at the beginning, having an ambition to become Europe Digital Valley or like one of the Europe superpower, would mean that we step up to the top 10, right? And courage is one of these elements which I think we are missing, because but not really courage as such maybe, but is a part of wider phenomena of lack of appropriate number of leaders. Okay, because yes, we are very good in technical talents, but the key question is who's gonna lead these folks? Okay, and from my experience, I can tell you that it's not a big deal for us to hire technical talent, but whenever we go to positions requiring bridging and leading or taking strong lead between business, technical domains with senior stakeholders in Poland and abroad, we struggle. We struggle because our education sector is just not prepared to be production line for this type of leaders, you know. We focus, for example, on a huge number of people from so-called STEM faculties. If I remember well, we have something like approximately 100,000 people graduating STEM every year. But we have to realize that technical skills is just one side of the coin. Then there is teamwork, for example. You know, I was discussing 3 or 4 years ago with one of the teachers in Hong Kong who is teaching programming to 7, 8 years old kids. And she was explaining to me the key purpose of classes is not programming as such, is build the habit of curiosity, build the habit of courage, build the habit of teamwork, because in one class, this person gonna be a leader. In other class, this person gonna be, say, architect. In yet another class, it's gonna be a team member, so that they can learn how to work in a team, right? If we compare to education here, we don't have this approach. And that's one of the fundamental changes which needs to happen, because if we look at this, I think what is striking is this big gap between potential and where we are today. Because potential is giving us possibilities to be top 10, but long story short, you know, if we discuss things like are we on track to become this digital superpower, then we have to contextualize this question and be more specific. So if we rephrase the question like, are we on track to become top 10 by 2030, I would say the train is gone. And we won't be able to catch this train anymore. But we have to think beyond this horizon, because it will require us to not only work bottom up, as Paweł was mentioning with Microsoft, as the guys here mentioned for their scope, and as many of others are doing, but this will also require very top-down approach, right, with huge investment, because courage in numbers means that in last digital Poland Foundation, the number of large Polish companies using machine learning is something like 6%, right? So even if you put all these people on the market, where will they find commercial application for their products if just 6% of entrepreneurs are investing in this, right? And finally, financial commitment, because Israel should be a benchmark for us, where government is committing just for the next 5 years something like $1.5 billion to support AI initiatives.
Okay, that's a much more pessimistic approach to the subject, Mr. Jakubik, than yours. Do you agree that there's so much to be done? Do you agree with the diagnosis Mr. Wyszyński just presented, that it's far away from, we're really far away from the aim?
Maybe I will say in this way that I wouldn't be treated as over-optimistic. This is my first intention. I will give some numbers, what's happened, yeah? In last 18 months. We have some IDC numbers and also some global system integrators reports on the cloud services adoption ranking. And 2 years ago, Poland was on the level of the cloud services adoption with the number 10 or 11%. It depends from the report. After 18 months of this cloud narration and execution of the Polish digital volley, how we call our project with our data center, we moved from 10, 11% to 24%. And this is the survey based on the largest and mid-sized Polish enterprises, not only commercial, but also public sector, the state-owned. So it looks that, and this is why I am more optimistic than Tomek, because from the IT perspective, I see some processes when business results will be visible in the midterm scenario, because IT should be before prepared, like a base, for the digital transformation. Of course, on the, I would say, the digital transformation, we have also some report, and there is a still long journey ahead of Poland to build really this Polish digital valley. Especially, we have also some negative examples here on the, for instance, shared services industry, where Poland is only, I would say, only supplier to more matured countries, yeah? Yesterday was in Gdańsk, big event on the ABSL, the organization very active on this shared services. And I've had some ideas, even very innovative, I would say, from previous prime minister from Poland 20 years ago, but maybe we need some government decision maybe to regulate, to nationalize the shared services in Poland. So to take all this hundreds of thousands Polish programmers to be ready to support Polish economy, not other economies. But this is easy, I would say, narration, but the execution on this is super tough because they are working
Sounds controversial.
On the international contracts, on the international pricing also, that price for Monday is 3-4 times bigger, higher than we are able to pay here. But on the other hand, I think that you agree all with me, 10 years ago, average salary in Poland was 2,500 Polish zloty. Today, guys, we have 6,000 Polish zloty. Of course, inflation now is crazy and flying, but it was no flying inflation 10 years, five. So we have progress. And having this, when I was on this discussion with my analytical decision makers, they really checked this potential, not only as a promise. That's why I am slightly more optimistic than Tomek. It was based on the examples from other geographic regions, how economy are taking the cloud perspective and how we are able to support GDP. That is an example from cloud data center region in Australia and New Zealand. 10 years ago, Microsoft and AWS put huge infrastructure to the country, to Australia and New Zealand. And after 10 years, there is a strong, I would say, argument that the impact, direct impact for GDP was close to 0.5% due to this services. But I would say, I don't want to, now to go only to this potential, and because our main topic was AI, yeah? So AI is a top-in-class example of business services innovation ideas, how we can support the business. I agree with the others that this is the strong part of Industry 4.0 revolution. Main pillar of Industry revolution is AI. What is AI? AI is a data and algorithm. So we have to put this together to have effect of this. And having cloud, without cloud, if you put standard data, what you have on your physical server or your PC or your server in your private data center, and you will build algorithm, the machine learning potential, how this algorithm can learn and give business effects on the learning will be very limited. If you put the same data and this algorithm to the availability zones in the cloud data centers, you have access to big data, regional, worldwide, and you can learn algorithm on a billions of transaction examples, situations, behaviors, everything. And your algorithm will be much more stronger and better to give you expected business results. So this is the power of AI. But we should think how to reorient Polish market, not to repeat shared services story and example on the AI, that we will not make only AI to Western companies. And I am saying this as a Pole, not Microsoft executive board member, but as a Pole, because it's my concern how to build this, that the best Polish talents will deliver this AI algorithm to Polish organization, to Polish companies, to Polish entrepreneurs, and to Polish consumers in the end. Yeah.
If I may just comment, I think there are like two very interesting aspects that you, Paweł, mentioned, but also Tomek mentioned a second ago. It's like on one hand, we are talking about the technology infrastructure and the data. So basically, AI requires also data preparation. Today, big obstacle and big challenge for many businesses to start playing with all the algorithms, all the analytics and so on, is preparation and proper structuring of data. So cloud definitely enables businesses for the future to be much more cost efficient in this field. Today, very often it happens that there is a project just to create a model, to do some forecasting. Yeah? If it takes, I don't know, let's say 100 units to do it, very often 60 or even 70 units go to proper data management, preparation, testing, auditing, in order to understand what the data really is. Is there any discrepancy in data collection? Were there any extraordinary events that are visible in the data? But if we don't tag them and if we don't discover them properly, then the algorithms and all the let's say, conclusions drawn or the insights drawn from the data will be just corrupt and will be fully misleading. And then actual modeling and then business interpretation of that usually is can be as less as 30 units of such a project. So here cloud, in this aspect, if we are talking about how cloud enables AI, is really that this data management part should be much less time consuming in the future. Yeah? Because today we are connecting many different data sources, not structured, not interconnected, and so on and so on. So this is, I think, one thing. The other in the shared services and HR thing. On one hand, yes, let's not avoid the situation, but on the other, let's avoid the situation that we become just a cheap data science workforce for the West, or that sense. But on the other hand, this resource is scarce. And let's be honest, it's it doesn't take 2 years of some course at the university. I know basics of R or Python, and I call myself a data scientist. Yeah, it's really not like that. It really takes certain experience, understanding of business, and certain expertise. And a real data scientist is an explorer. And while many of the things that applications that we see at businesses, like the expectations is that you go, you develop, and then you maintain. Data scientists will become bored with maintenance of models, with all these like elements. So there will be certain stratification and differentiation of roles within that. And still, the resources and the skills like data scientists, the ones who are like explorers, like creativity is required, understanding of the business, will be really limited. So there is a question like if really like data science and modeling AI, it won't be like a service, that there will be like certain like competence centers, yeah, where the skills and talent is really put and like consolidated, that will help other businesses as service develop and grow there. So it's really an ongoing discussion, and in that sense, we could leverage our shared services, businesses, and experiences and position on the map of EU and globally, yeah, to also leverage that to further developing what is currently called as a concept of digital valley.
Agree. Absolutely. It's an army that we can use.
We're closer to the end. I wanted to tackle one more thing we haven't discussed yet. It's the ethical issues. You mentioned about data possibly not being correct, but that fed to the AI. Is there any legal framework for that not to happen? You mentioned, Mr. Jakubik, that the legal system is slower than technological development. Is there any regulation in the EU or in Poland that kind of tries to follow suit, try to be up to date?
We have some set of recommendations. There is no solid regulation. We have set of recommendations. There is a white book launched by European Union Commission several months ago. There is a great initiative on Davos Economic Forum 4 or 5 years ago. It was initiated by Google and Microsoft and I remember, or AWS or IBM, to build a coalition, not only technology vendors, but also some advisors, some, I would say, other software vendors, to build a worldwide coalition to discuss and prepare the rules for the future AI regulations. Because what is the dark side of the AI? What is behind this algorithm dark side?
Well, it's come and kill us one day, wage wars.
Yeah, so there is some unofficial in the media information that there is a lot of military implementation on the weapons, on the very, I would say, sophisticated and very modern, machines and other things, where some algorithms can be used in non-ethical. There, of course, many other. So I would promote the opinion that it will be super tough to make country regulations per country on AI. I don't believe that country. We should build or regional or some community, international community, because AI has no limits, it has no borders. So we need some really top, and I would observe and really looking forward to this Davos initiative. I know that there is a US government also working on some maybe example of the regulations, and maybe you should also look at this. Poland, Ministry of Digitization, previous name of this our institution. We did some working groups on this, yeah. I think Justyna Orłowska is one of this digital leader on the government, on behalf of government. So let's support them this preparation. We need smart lawyers, guys. We need young, smart lawyers. Why young? Because the potential dark side of this AI can be generated mainly from some young generation. Yeah, how to use, because they are more creative on this, the examples what we have, than generation Y or X. Yeah, so more looking to the Generation Z
Okay.
and millennials. Yeah? So
Mr. Dabaghi.
this is my statement.
So you're smiling. Do you see the concern of business people about this? Well, not dark side, but maybe bias in using AI. You act as a link between business and technology. Is there a discussion? Is there that way of thinking that maybe AI is not all good? Maybe we should be, mitigating the risk as well.
With everything, I suppose there's always a good angel and a bad angel in everything you do. So AI or technology in itself, or the usability of data, or how we make a decision on any day in purpose. There's the area of the legality of it, and there's the area of the ethical usage of it. And it depends on the organizations and so on. You cannot police everything. In a sense that I believe the common good and how this country conducts itself. And this is coming from me as an outsider, as a foreigner that comes here often and engages with the business in this country. I see it fundamentally that there's a general purpose of doing things the right way. Whether you get some rogue elements every now and then, I suppose it happens anywhere and everywhere. So we just need to take the good with the bad. In general, I can tell you one thing though. I've been here for a few days now, and I've been going out with Michał and meeting our top clients, from the energy sector to the top insurers to the banking sector and so on, and retail. And I've never felt more positive around what I would say the curiosity and the level of interest that I have seen in Poland in the willingness of decision makers, high-level decision makers. They were asking us for ideas openly. We were sitting there discussing with them, and they say, I want to hear more. Tell me more about this. Tell me more about that. How can we do this? Where has it been done? We can go and see them. So there is a general curiosity that's happening in this country. While, I've heard in a joking manner the other day that the mood of any Pole depends on when they wake up in the morning and open the window and see how the weather is. Yesterday was a brilliant day. Today there's what it is outside. So probably we're a little bit gloomy. So we're taking it on AI and cloud. So let's take it easy slightly on the matter. I think the fundamentals are there. And yes, we might have a long journey, and it's not complete yet. But I think I do believe that generally this country is hard on itself. Like it looks at the end result and says, why we're not there yet? While there's still a couple of kilometers to go, right? So, and no country that made it there in a big leap. So there are the fundamentals and the building blocks are there. And we need to build on them, continue to build on them. There is an element of patience, but there is an unbelievable amount of potential and availability of intelligent, capable people. I would say that this country needs to invest further in being open and bringing talent as well from outside. Yes, there are elements in decision-making and risk-taking that might be slightly foreign for a usual decision-maker in Poland. They prefer a surety, and they want to have some level of confidence in what they're doing. And that's all fine and fair, but the countries that have made it into this presumptive valley of AI, effectively they took risks. And the risks are, when you invest in these upcoming startups, some of them, most of them have a challenging road. And the one that hits is a wonder. But the one that hits is 1 in 1,000, and who knew which one is it, right? So the funds who actually invested in those, they can tell you, we knew this one's gonna be successful. I tell you for being in this business for this long, they don't know. So we need to be patient. We need to invest in the fundamentals of the market. We need to support our major businesses and to continue to invest because they are probably the biggest drivers of the trends. And we need to have the fortitude to see not just the end the end place where we need to be, but as well the fact that we need to travel the road, and we're getting there. Where Poland was 10 years ago versus now. And this is, again, coming from a person who travels here often, and every time I land here, I look and I say, wow, this thing is moving forward, right? But again, it depends on the morning and how people feel about the weather. So we'll see how that
Okay.
goes.
Mr. Wyszyński, your morning must have been tough. You're a Pole, opened the window, saw the rainy weather, and got a
I
bit
don't
pessimistic.
think that neither my evaluation of AI or my mood depends on the weather or the Polish people, because if that would be the case, we are doomed, you know. But no, seriously, two aspects, right? I mean, the first aspect is the aspect of my view on Poland becoming a digital valley of Europe is not pessimistic, because as with Polish football saying we will not be world champion in the next 8 years is not pessimism, you know. It's more trying to figure out how to get there, because the key question is, can we get there? Yes, we can. We have a lot of variables in place which can help us to get there, but we don't really have yet the very specific top-down strategy pushing us to this direction. And we have many open questions or huge risks which are very quickly pushing us from not even top 10, but from top 20 of countries. Okay? And we have to address them. That's the only point. It's like exactly what they do with football for the last 5-8 years. They started to deploy the right mechanisms of education from early on, like 5-6 years old, right? The effects on this will come, but they will not come in the next 3 to 5 years, okay? That train is already gone. So I just want to be clear that I'm very optimistic we can get there, but we have to be also very realistic about where we are. And being realistic and talking with numbers, I don't think that's pessimism. That's just factual. Okay. Now, for the aspect of ethics and AI, that's something which is one of the most important aspects, because that's how we make decisions. You know, and if we reflect on this, there was a quote from Lawrence Summers, who was one of the economic advisors in previous US presidency administrations, key figure at World Bank, etc. And Lawrence Summers said that when historians will be looking at our age 200-300 years from now on, they will see that something amazing happened, that we started to use data at large scale, and that we learned to make decisions in much more intelligent way, right? And that's true to a large degree, but then you have to look at trends in society, and you have to ask yourself a question: why do we have such a popularity of things like anti-science, anti-vaccination, and all those things? Because if Lawrence Summers is right, that should not really happen, or the scale of this should be much more minimal, right? And one of the key things is that we didn't pay enough attention to accountability for knowledge, okay, transmission. And the same thing just cannot happen with the AI. And I agree, you cannot police everything, because that's just not feasible. It's like, again, revolution of AI is a revolution how we make decisions. Will you be able to police every single decision citizens are doing? No, and we shouldn't, right? But we should be educating a lot and taking a lot of commitments, which is happening in a lot of business to government gremiums at World Economic Forum, at European Union level, etc. But that's also should be a commitment of every company, because we have enormous number of examples, even from best-in-class companies, where AI just went wrong and was contributing to discrimination, to inequality, etc. Now, the good news, very good news, is that's absolutely manageable thing, and that's something you can put into your business process of model development, of your code of conduct in your company, which is what we do at Schneider, and that works. That brings amazing results.
Okay, so on that slightly optimistic more realistic approach, we need to wrap it up for today, gentlemen. Thank you very much. It seems like Poland is on the way, on a rocky path to being, well, a strong challenger in the AI race. Thank you very much. It's been very.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.